We will now discuss four main cluster functions that are often used to manipulate clusters. These are the bundle, unbundle, bundle by name, and unbundle by name functions. Use the bundle function to assemble a cluster from individual elements. To wire elements into the bundle function, use your mouse to resize the function or right-click on the function and select Add Input from the shortcut menu. Use the bundle or the bundle by name function to modify an existing cluster. The bundle by name function is very useful when modifying existing clusters because it lets you know exactly which cluster element you are modifying. We will see this in an example following the next slide. Use the unbundle function to disassemble a cluster into its individual elements. Use the unbundle by name function to return specific cluster elements you specify by name. These functions can also be resized for multiple elements in the same manner as the bundle and bundle by name functions. Now let's work through an example in LabVIEW using bundle and bundle by name. For this example, we will create a cluster that contains two string elements labeled string 1 and string 2. Navigate to the block diagram and make a copy of our cluster. Change this copy into a constant so that we can tell the bundle and bundle by name functions what type of cluster we're modifying. First, let's use the bundle function to modify the cluster. Navigate to the functions palette, programming, cluster class invariant, and grab the bundle function. Wire the constant cluster to the top terminal of the bundle, letting it know that we want to modify a cluster of two string types. Now wire our string constants into the terminals of the bundle function. Then wire the output of the bundle function into our cluster. If we run this VI, we see that we wrote the wrong strings to the wrong indicators. This is because we can't tell from the bundle function which string indicator we're writing to in the cluster. However, let's try to use the bundle by name function. Delete the bundle function, then hit Control B to delete all broken wires. On the functions palette, navigate to cluster class invariant, then grab the bundle by name function and place it on the block diagram. Wire the constant cluster to the top terminal of the bundle by name function. Resize the bundle by name function to contain two terminals. As you can see, the bundle by name function lets you know which terminal corresponds to which element in the cluster. Now we can retype our constant strings and wire them to the appropriate terminals. Then wire the output of the bundle by name function to the cluster. And if we run the VI again, and resize our string elements, we'll see that we wired the proper strings to the proper indicators. Cluster elements have a logical order unrelated to their position in the shell. The first object you place in the cluster is element 0. The second is element 1, and so on. If you delete an element, the order adjusts automatically. The cluster order determines the order in which the elements appear as terminals on the bundle and unbundle functions on the block diagram. You can view and modify the cluster order by right-clicking the cluster border and selecting Reorder Controls in Cluster from the shortcut menu. The white box on each element shows its current place in the cluster order. The black box shows the element's new place in the order. To set the order of a cluster element, enter the new order number in the Click to Set text box and click the element. The cluster order of the element will change, and the cluster order of other elements will automatically adjust. Save the changes by clicking the Confirm button on the toolbar. Revert to the original order by clicking the Cancel button. Now let's wrap up the topics we discussed in this tutorial. For arrays, we discussed how to create and manipulate 1D and 2D arrays, as well as how to use auto-indexing with arrays and for loops. For clusters, we covered how to create clusters, how to manipulate clusters using the cluster functions, and how to reorder cluster elements.